this week's AI news, well, it's throwing up some pretty fascinating dilemmas, to say the least,
Yeah.
from like how we work to,
Right.
the very essence of creativity. It seems like no stone is being left unturned by AI right now.
It's moving fast.
So are you ready to dive in?
Let's unpack it all.
We've got insights from the Synthetic Work newsletter to guide us this week. And
It's a good one.
yeah, it really is. It's a really thought-provoking issue, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. The sheer scope of like AI's potential impact is just, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
What struck me the most this week is how it's really pushing us to examine like our values and our priorities,
Right.
like what kind of future do we actually want to build with this technology?
That's the key question, isn't it? And one area where that question is becoming kind of unavoidable is the workplace, right?
Oh, absolutely.
JP Morgan Chase just rolled out this AI tool that could drastically reduce the amount of manual labor needed for financial analysis.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
Which, like, okay.
It's not just the increased efficiency.
Yeah.
It's the implications for workers, right?
Totally.
Like, I mean, Jamie Dimon, he's the CEO of JP Morgan. He even floated this idea of a 3.5-day work week thanks to this level of automation.
Yeah.
So,
Which, okay, on the surface,
Yeah.
3.5-day work week, sign me up.
yeah, exactly.
But I think we need to ask, like, what's the trade-off here?
Right.
Are we talking about reduced pay?
Yeah.
Fewer jobs overall? Like, it's not just about working less. It's about understanding what the impact is on people's livelihoods, right?
Exactly. And this isn't just like a JP Morgan issue.
No.
This connects to a broader trend that the newsletter highlighted this week, which is this this like automation paradox idea.
Okay.
Which is, like AI can streamline these processes and make things easier,
Right.
but only if the systems themselves are actually sound.
Okay.
If a company is already like a hot mess of bureaucracy and bad processes,
Right.
AI might just amplify those problems rather than fix them.
So it's not a magic bullet.
No, definitely not.
Right. You can't just throw AI at any problem and expect, like,
Right.
a miracle.
It requires a fundamental rethink of how we work,
Yeah.
how we organize ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And it's precisely, I think, that's where the human element becomes even more crucial, right? AI can handle all the data crunching, no problem. But it's up to us to set the goals, to make the ethical considerations, to make sure it's actually being used for good and not for nefarious purposes.
And it's almost like the more AI advances,
Yes.
the more we need to lean into those like uniquely human qualities,
Yeah.
creativity,
Yes.
critical thinking, empathy,
100%. Yeah.
all that good stuff.
Yeah. 100%.
And speaking of blurring the lines between human and machine capabilities, the newsletter had a really fascinating segment on AI at the border.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, they're planning to use AI-powered X-rays on millions of vehicles.
Wow.
I mean, that's AI at the edge, literally.
Yeah. That's intense.
Right.
Yeah.
And while it could potentially make border security more efficient, I mean, it also raises some big questions, right? About
the newsletter author?
Yeah.
He has expertise in this area, and he actually claimed that, like, he could develop a similar system
What?
for a fraction of the cost and time.
Wow. Okay, so if that's true,
Yeah.
shouldn't we be asking why these like massive government contracts are being handed out?
Accountability.
It really highlights the need for transparency and accountability
100%.
in how AI is being adopted, especially when it comes to something like surveillance.
Yeah, it makes you think about the bigger picture too, right? Like, how
Sure.
comfortable are we
Yeah.
with this level of automation when it comes to security and surveillance? Where do we draw the line? These are questions that we can't afford to ignore as AI becomes more powerful, more pervasive.
Right.
It's only going to get more intense from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope. Right. 1 minute we're talking about AI like streamlining customs, and next, we're living in a surveillance state.
Exactly.
And speaking of blurring lines, the newsletter also touched on AI's impact on the art world.
Yeah.
Which
always a fun one.
This is a topic that always gets people fired up, right?
It does.
Yeah.
And this week there's some interesting research highlighted in there.
Okay.
Suggesting that while AI can help artists produce, more work, it might come at the cost of genuine creativity.
So more quantity, less originality. Is that kind of what they're...
That's the gist of it.
Okay.
But it's important to note, right? The research really focused on like a very specific data set
Hmm.
of like AI-generated art.
Sure.
So it's not the whole picture.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
the AI art scene is incredibly dynamic, with artists constantly like finding new and innovative ways to like
Mhm.
push the boundaries.
So it's not a simple case of like AI is killing creativity then.
No.
Thank goodness, because I was about to hang up my podcasting mic and, take up interpretive dance or something.
No need for that just yet.
Okay, good.
The newsletter made a really good point about this, actually,
Okay.
which is that it's not really about AI like replacing human creativity.
Mm.
Right. It's about how we can use these new tools to like
Got it.
augment and enhance
Got it.
what we already do.
It's about collaboration then.
Exactly. It reminds me a lot of how photography was initially met with like skepticism in the art world.
Yeah.
You know, people thought, well, a machine is just capturing the image. Like, where's the art in that?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
we know now, obviously, that photography became its own art form, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in visual storytelling.
Right.
AI art could very well be on a similar trajectory.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's all about how we choose to use these tools and then how we kind of adapt our own definitions of art and creativity
Right,
along the way.
right.
But while we're on the topic of AI shaping things up, the newsletter also mentioned something quite surprising, which is that 5 finalists for this year's Pulitzer Prize in journalism used AI in their work.
I saw that.
Isn't that wild?
That's huge.
That's like the Pulitzer Prizes are like the Oscars of journalism.
Yeah,
Exactly.
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 So if AI is becoming commonplace in that realm, I mean, it really makes you wonder,
Yeah.
like, what other industries are on the verge of a similar kind of shift? And then,
Right. And what does this mean for
right, exactly.
the future of work?
What does this mean for the future of work as we know it, right?
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
And one that doesn't have like easy answers.
Of course not.
Right. But I think on one hand, AI has the potential to really like democratize access to like information and tools.
Leveling the playing field in a lot of ways.
Right. But on the flip side, could it also create new forms of inequality?
Absolutely.
Especially if the people who, already have access to the best resources, the best training,
Of course.
are the ones who are best positioned to like leverage AI.
100%. And that's why it's so crucial that we're having these conversations now, to
Yeah.
like be thinking critically about like the potential downsides of widespread AI adoption.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just like
Yeah.
celebrate the advancements and be like, ooh, AI. We have to also be proactive
Right.
in addressing those potential ethical concerns
Totally.
and making sure that like everyone benefits
Right.
from these technologies, not
It's
just
just a select few.
exactly.
It's about responsible innovation, right?
100%.
Making sure that this is being used in a way that actually benefits society as a whole
Yes.
and not just,
Specific companies.
specific companies or, individuals, right?
100%. And this brings us to another like critical area where AI is like really making waves, and that's healthcare.
Okay, yeah. The newsletter highlighted how some UK care providers are starting to use AI, specifically ChatGPT, to create care plans for patients. Which is,
Interesting.
it's a fascinating development, especially given,
The staffing issues.
all the challenges in healthcare staffing right now.
Huge opportunity
Right.
for AI to alleviate some of the burden on healthcare workers, right?
Totally.
Freeing them up to focus on like
Right. The
the more human aspects of care.
the human elements of care, right?
Exactly.
Like we were saying. But
It also raises some valid concerns.
yeah,
Right, especially around data privacy
of course.
and the potential for like algorithmic bias,
Right?
because we're talking about people's health here.
Right. The stakes are incredibly high.
Incredibly high.
It's a delicate balance, isn't it?
It is, very much so.
Trying to harness and just constant oversight, right? When you're implementing AI in such sensitive areas.
Could not agree more. We need to be asking like really tough questions about data security, algorithmic transparency.
Mm.
How do we ensure that these systems are truly serving the best interests of patients?
Yes.
Like, this is not something we can just hand over to AI and be like, figure it out,
Yeah, do your thing. it all circles back to that central question we keep bumping into, right? Like,
Right.
what kind of future do we want to see?
Yes.
And that question actually leads us very nicely to the newsletter's final point this week, which I found really thought-provoking.
Good.
They quoted the directors of the film Everything Everywhere All at Once,
Oh, cool.
who were talking about AI and
Mhm.
how it's both amazing and terrifying.
Okay. Oh, I love that.
Which I think is just, like,
It's so true.
it's such a brilliant observation, right? Because it really speaks to, like,
It does.
that very human tension that I think a lot of us are grappling with right now, where it's like
Totally.
we're excited by the potential,
Yeah.
but we're also, like, a little bit afraid of what it might mean for us, right?
Is it going to take over the world?
Yeah, exactly.
Like all those big questions.
And they went on to say, it's ultimately up to us to decide what role we want AI to play in our lives.
That's empowering.
Right. We get to, like, write the narrative.
We do, yeah. And that's both empowering
Yeah.
and a little daunting.
Yeah.
Right. Because it means
Really
like
responsibility.
not just for how we develop it, but for how we think about it.
Right. Our mindset.
Right. Are we approaching AI from like a place of fear and scarcity or
Yeah.
from a place of possibility,
It's like choosing which story we're going to tell ourselves about AI.
Yes.
And therefore about the future. Right?
Yeah. Because those stories, they have real world consequences.
They do.
Right.
100%.
Like if we buy into the narrative that like AI is here to replace us, to make us obsolete, like that can lead to anxiety, to resignation, to a lack of agency.
Totally.
But if we choose to see AI as a tool, as a collaborator even, or like a catalyst for positive change,
Yeah.
it opens up a whole different set of possibilities.
Right. It really does.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of that old saying,
What's that?
whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Oh, that's a good one.
You know?
It is.
It's like our mindset really does shape our reality, especially when it comes to something as like potentially transformative as AI,
I completely agree. And that's why I think like resources like the Synthetic Work newsletter are so valuable. They encourage us to like actually engage with these issues, to ask the tough questions, to think critically.
To stay informed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to be like active participants in shaping this future. Not just passive bystanders,
It's been quite a journey this week, hasn't it? We've covered so much ground from the nitty gritty of these new AI tools to like
I know.
the philosophical implications of it all. And if you're feeling a little overwhelmed out there, trust me, you're not alone.
It's a lot to process.
It's a lot.
It is.
But I think instead of shying away from the complexity, I think it's important to lean into it.
100%, yeah.
Right. Because the more informed we are, as you were saying, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the inevitable changes AI will bring.
Exactly. Exactly.
And to remember that we're not just along for the ride, right? Like, we're the ones holding the map.
Yes.
And steering the wheel.
We get to decide.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the ever-evolving world of AI, I think the takeaway I hope you'll carry with you is,
What's that?
stay curious, stay informed, but most importantly, stay engaged.
Yes.
The future of AI is still being written, and we all have a role to play in shaping that story.
Beautifully said. I love that.
So until next time.
Until next time.
Keep asking those important questions.
100%.